They don't talk about the silence, not the peaceful, restful kind, but a heavy, echoing silence that settles deep in your bones when the door clicks shut, like a book slammed on a cherished chapter of your life. They don't tell you how the glossy brochures, like a perfect movie set, and the ever-present smiles can hide a reality that, bit by bit, can wear you down, like water dripping on a stone. I know, because I've been there. And the things I'm about to share? These are what I desperately wish my family and I had known before we signed on that dotted line. This isn't to scare you. It's to give you the truth, because the decision you're making is huge. I'm here to pull back the curtain on 6 hard realities about nursing home life. The kind of things that often get smoothed over until you're already in too deep, like sinking in quicksand. This is the urgent, untold story every family ought to hear. Truth number 1, the crushing erosion of your independence. The first thing you notice, maybe not right away, but like a slow, creeping tide, is how your independence starts to slip away. It's not just about needing a bit more help. It's about losing control over the little things, the everyday details of your own life. Before I moved in, my days were mine. I'd wake up when I felt like it, make my coffee exactly how I liked it, and decide on a whim whether to read a book or mess around in the garden. Those small freedoms, the ones you hardly think about, they're actually the threads that make up who you are. Suddenly, you're living on someone else's schedule, like a marionette whose strings are pulled by unseen hands. Meals are at set times, hungry or not. Activities are planned, interested or not. Want to sleep in a little? Tough luck if it's medication time. Feel like a spontaneous walk? You might have to wait for someone to help, or it might just not be walk time. The biggest shock for me wasn't the smaller room or all the new faces. It was the slow, dawning realization that I wasn't in charge of my own life anymore. You learn to stop asking why, to stop pushing back, because it's just easier. But every time you give up a tiny piece of your autonomy, it's like a small light dimming inside. A little bit of you goes with it. They'll call it care and routine, and sure, in some ways, it is. But they won't tell you how that routine can feel like a cage, or how much you'll miss the simple choices, like what to eat, when to sleep, or where to go. Truth number 2, the silent epidemic of loneliness and feeling forgotten. They'll talk a lot about community, activities, and a social environment. And for some people, I'm sure that's how it is. But for many of us, myself included, one of the hardest things to deal with is feeling utterly forgotten. When you first move in, family visits are pretty regular. The phone rings. There are promises of Sunday dinners and trips out for the holidays. But life, goes on for everyone outside those walls. Slowly, almost without anyone meaning for it to happen, the visits can get shorter, less frequent. The calls don't last as long. It's usually not because anyone means to be unkind. Lives are busy, and a new normal just settles in. But for the person on the inside, every missed visit, every rushed call, can feel like proof of that growing fear. You're becoming a side note, almost like a character written out of the main story of the lives you cherish most. Even when you're surrounded by other residents and staff, a deep, aching loneliness can take hold, like an invisible wall separating you from everyone else. It can be tough to make real connections, especially if people have different health issues or cognitive challenges. Sometimes, it feels like trying to tune into a clear radio station amidst a lot of static. That shared dining room can feel like the loneliest place on earth if you feel disconnected. It's not just about missing people. It's the feeling of your world shrinking, like looking through the wrong end of a telescope, of being gently, unintentionally pushed to the side. The pandemic really threw a spotlight on this, showing how quickly social activities could vanish, leading to a sharp rise in loneliness. Truth number 3, the disappearance of purpose and identity. What happens when the very pillars of your identity, the things that made you you, are suddenly kicked out from under you? So many of us, and I'm one of them, built our lives around routines, responsibilities, things we were passionate about, things that gave us a reason to get up in the morning, the fuel for our inner fire. Maybe it was a career, a hobby you loved for years, taking care of your home, or just being the person everyone in the family came to for advice. In a nursing home, so much of that can just disappear. I remember a man named George who lived in the same place I did. He'd been a carpenter his whole life. His hands were skilled, always busy. He'd tell these wonderful stories about the furniture he'd built, the houses he'd helped create. In the home, his tools were gone. His workshop was just a memory. His hands, once so capable, were now usually just resting in his lap, like a maestro's baton laid aside forever. He told me once, his voice barely a whisper, "I feel useless." That loss of purpose is heartbreaking. It's not just about having things to do. It's about feeling like you matter, like you're needed, like there's a reason to start the day beyond just getting to the scheduled breakfast. When your daily jobs are taken away, when nobody needs your skills anymore, it's so easy to feel like you're just existing, like a ship adrift without a rudder. Life starts to lose its color, and you can feel like just another person in a place where time passes, but nothing really changes. Truth number 4, the unexpected decline, when care leads to weakness. This one's a tough pill to swallow, and it's definitely not what anyone signs up for. You move into a nursing home, often because you need more medical help or supervision, thinking it will keep you stable or even make you stronger. But for some people, the exact opposite can happen. I saw it, and I felt it myself. It's the strange paradox of care. Sometimes, the more help you're given, the more help you end up needing. Like a crutch that, used for too long, makes your own legs forget how to walk. Before I moved, I was active enough in my own way. I'd walk to the corner shop, cook for myself, and manage my own day. These little efforts kept my muscles working and my mind busy planning and doing. In the nursing home, a lot of those daily tasks were just done for me. Meals just showed up. My room was cleaned. I didn't have to walk far for anything. And while everyone meant well, the unintended result was that I moved around a lot less. Muscles that weren't being used started to get weaker, much like an unused garden path becomes overgrown and impassable. That short walk to the dining hall started to feel like a bigger effort. Just standing up from a chair felt harder. Now, this doesn't happen to everyone, and good places do try to keep residents active. But the truth is, in many places, often because they're short-staffed, or because there's such a focus on safety that it discourages independence, residents can end up sitting around a lot more, their world constricting to the four walls of their room, almost like a bird choosing to stay in its cage even when the door is ajar. This can actually lead to a faster physical decline than if they'd been in a place that gently pushed them to do more for themselves. It's a hard truth, because the staff are often doing what they think is best, but the system itself can accidentally make residents weaker. Truth number 5, your dignity and privacy. Luxuries, not guarantees. At home, you take your privacy for granted, don't you? Closing your bedroom door, having a quiet moment to yourself, taking care of personal things in private. These are all basic parts of feeling dignified. One of the things I was least prepared for was just how much of that privacy I'd lose. From the moment I got there, it felt like I was living in a glass house, always being watched. Staff would come into my room, sometimes with a quick knock, sometimes without even waiting for me to answer. There were scheduled room checks. Shared spaces meant you were rarely ever truly alone. Even the most personal things, like getting dressed or using the bathroom, often meant needing help or waiting for someone to be free to help. I understood the caregivers were just doing their jobs, and honestly, I was often grateful for their assistance. But there's something that just chips away at your dignity when you need help with things you've done on your own your entire life. Showers weren't when you felt like having one. They were on a schedule, and you waited your turn. Your body, your personal space, it can start to feel less like your own and more like a list of tasks for a caregiver. And if you share a room, your privacy is even more limited. You might end up with a roommate you didn't pick, someone whose habits or health issues make your small space feel even smaller. Dignity is a fragile thing, like a delicate piece of china, and it's tough to hold on to when your daily life is run by a schedule you didn't make, and your most private moments aren't really private anymore. Truth number 6. The reversible decision. That often isn't. This might be the sneakiest truth of all, the one that gets whispered about but rarely said out loud when you're signing up. How incredibly hard it can be to leave a nursing home once you're in, almost like stepping into quicksand that looks deceptively solid. Many people, and I was one of them, go in thinking it might be temporary, a place to get back on your feet after a hospital stay, or a solution while you figure out other options. I kept telling myself, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back home. But the reality is very different. Moving into a nursing home often feels like pressing a pause button, a choice you can undo. But for so many, it's more like a door that quietly locks behind you. A few things weave together, like strong, invisible threads, to make leaving a real struggle. First, there's that physical decline I talked about. After months of moving less and depending more on others, you might not be as strong or as capable as you were when you first went in. Your confidence in being able to manage on your own can take a big hit. Second, money becomes a big factor. Nursing home care is incredibly expensive, and savings can disappear fast. The home you once owned might have been sold to pay the bills, leaving you with nowhere to actually go back to. And family members, well, they can get used to the idea that you're safe in a facility. Their worries about you being able to cope on your own can be a huge barrier. They might say, "Are you sure you can manage? Wouldn't it be safer if you just stayed?" What starts as a trial period can slowly, almost without you noticing, become permanent, like a ship drifting silently off course. The longer you stay, the harder it is to even imagine leaving, let alone actually do it. That's the part they don't always spell out, how quietly, how permanently things can change. Broader impact call to awareness. Now, sharing all this isn't about saying all nursing homes are bad. There are places with wonderful, dedicated staff who genuinely care. And sometimes, a nursing home is absolutely the right and necessary choice. But the system itself, often struggling with not enough staff, budget pressures, and a focus on tasks rather than the individual person, can, like a river current, unintentionally pull even the best intentions towards these difficult realities. We know that understaffing is still a huge problem, with many facilities not even meeting new requirements, and that directly affects the care people get. Families, have to know about these potential problems, not to be scared off, but to be prepared. You need to go into this with your eyes wide open, understanding the trade-offs that aren't always in the shiny brochure. It's about realizing that the pretty pictures and promises of 24/7 care don't paint the whole picture. There's often a hidden side, like the unseen part of an iceberg, massive and potentially dangerous, one that affects a person's dignity, their independence, and who they are. So often, families don't find out about problems until their loved one is already settled in. And sometimes, people living there are afraid to speak up about concerns because they worry about how they'll be treated. So, what can you actually do? First, do your homework, and then do some more. Don't just take the official tour, which is often like seeing only the highlight reel of a movie. Try to visit at different times, maybe evenings or weekends when the main managers aren't around. That'll give you a better feel for daily life. Look up inspection reports. Your state has agencies that monitor nursing homes, and these reports, even if they're a bit complicated or sometimes hard to find if they're being appealed, can give you real insights. Be aware that those government star ratings might not always tell you everything you need to know. Second, ask the tough questions. Don't be shy, be persistent, like a reporter on the trail of a vital story. Ask about staff-to-resident ratios, not just overall, but specifically for nurses and aides, and for different shifts. Ask how often staff members leave. A high turnover rate can be a red flag. Ask them directly, how do you make sure residents keep their independence and dignity? What are your policies if a resident has an unscheduled request? How do you help residents feel a sense of purpose? What happens if someone is unhappy or wants to leave? And really understand the contract before signing anything. Watch out for clauses that say you have to use arbitration, which can limit your right to sue if something goes wrong. Be very, very careful about who signs as the responsible party for payment, because that can mean being personally on the hook for the bills. Third, be a fierce advocate for your loved one, their unwavering champion. If they're already in a facility, be there. Visit often and at different times. Get to know the staff, from the aides to the nurses. Go to the care plan meetings and make sure their specific needs and preferences are written down and followed. Be their voice. If you see something that worries you, say something. Report problems to the facility's management. And if you need to, go to the state ombudsman or the licensing agency. And finally, share this information. Talk to your friends, your family, anyone you know who might be facing this kind of decision. The more we all understand these hidden truths, the more pressure we can create for better standards, better care, and more honesty. Remember, knowledge is power. And when you're making a decision this important, you need all the power you can get. This isn't just about finding a place for someone you love as they get older. It's about making sure their final years are lived with the dignity, respect, and quality of life they truly deserve. Don't let your family learn these truths the hard way, the way mine did.